How many times today did your mind drag you into thoughts you didn't choose? Worries about the future, dwelling on past mistakes, paralyzing anxiety, constant distractions that destroy your focus. You don't control your mind, it controls you. Miyamoto Musashi faced 60 life or death duels and was never defeated, not because his technique was perfect, but because his mind was unshakable. While his opponents panicked, hesitated, or got distracted for one fatal second, Musashi remained in Fudōshin, the immovable mind. He wasn't born this way. He forged this mental control through specific daily practices that any man can replicate in exactly 30 days. The big lie they sold you is that thoughts and emotions are uncontrollable, that you need to accept mental chaos as part of the human condition. That's resignation disguised as wisdom. The samurai understood that an untrained mind is like a wild horse that throws you to the ground repeatedly. But a disciplined mind is a weapon more lethal than any sword. Musashi spent hours in caves practicing Mokusō, not relaxing meditation, but brutal confrontation with his own mental demons. He understood that mastering the mind isn't about suppressing thoughts. It's about becoming absolute master of the space between stimulus and response. And this doesn't take years in a monastery. It takes 30 days of intentional practice. In this video, you'll receive the exact method, week by week, that the samurai used to transform chaotic minds into impenetrable fortresses. This isn't abstract philosophical theory. These are concrete practices you start tomorrow. If you follow this protocol for the next 30 days without skipping a single day, on day 31 you won't recognize the man you were on day 1. Anxiety, procrastination, lack of focus, all of these are just symptoms of an untrained mind. The cure isn't in more therapy or more pills, it's in 30 days of internal war. The question is, do you have the courage to face yourself? 1. Why you are a slave to your own mind. Wake up to a brutal truth right now. You don't think your thoughts, they think you. Every second, your mind fires thousands of impulses, memories, worries, and fantasies without your permission. You're sitting, trying to work, and suddenly find yourself thinking about that argument from 3 days ago. You're lying down trying to sleep, and your mind drags you into catastrophic scenarios that will probably never happen. You make promises in the morning, and by night, you've already broken them all, because a momentary impulse was stronger than your declared will. This isn't freedom, it's complete slavery to the tyranny of your own neurons. The problem isn't having negative or destructive thoughts. All humans have them. The problem is that you identify completely with them. You believe you are your thoughts. When anxiety appears, you don't think anxiety exists. You think I am anxious, as if it were your permanent identity. Musashi understood the critical difference. He wasn't his thoughts, he was the observer of thoughts. When fear arose before a duel, he didn't fight the fear or surrender to it. He simply observed, fear exists here, and continued executing his strategy with surgical precision. This separation between observer and thought is the key that opens the mental prison. Modern culture made everything exponentially worse. Social media, constant notifications, infinite entertainment, all designed to hijack your attention and make it fragmented. You can't read a paragraph anymore without checking your phone. You can't have a conversation without your mind wandering. You can't sit in silence for 5 minutes without panicking. Your attention muscle has completely atrophied, and attention is power. Without control of attention, you control nothing. Musashi lived in an era without these distractions and still trained mental control obsessively. Imagine how much more critical it is today. The good news is there's a specific mental state that the samurai mastered, and that's where we're going now. 2. The samurai concept of Fudōshin. Fudōshin. This Japanese word literally means immovable mind or unshakable spirit, and it was the mental state that separated legendary warriors from corpses on the battlefield. It's not about not feeling emotions or being cold as stone. Fudōshin is the ability to remain completely centered while storms of fear, anger, excitement, or doubt rage around you. Imagine a deep lake. On the surface there may be violent waves, but in the depths there exists absolute quietness. The samurai lived in that depth. Musashi could face an opponent screaming and gesticulating threateningly, and his breathing wouldn't accelerate, his heartbeat wouldn't spike, his mind wouldn't create stories of defeat. He remained internally immovable. Most people live on the agitated surface of the lake, completely at the mercy of each emotional wave that passes. Someone criticizes you, and you spend days ruminating, with anger consuming your energy. Something goes wrong, and you immediately panic, making desperate decisions. Something goes right, and you get euphoric. Relax your discipline, and soon you're back at rock bottom. You're a leaf in the wind, not a mountain. Musashi taught that Fudōshin isn't something you achieve once and maintain forever. It's a muscle you train daily through specific practices. Each time you feel an impulse and don't react immediately, you strengthen Fudōshin. Each time you observe emotion without identifying with it, you deepen the lake. The real power of Fudōshin isn't just in extreme life or death situations. It's in the daily war against destructive impulses. When you want to quit the diet, Fudōshin observes the desire without yielding. When you want to stay in bed instead of training, Fudōshin recognizes laziness without becoming its slave. When someone provokes you and you feel anger rising, Fudōshin keeps you in control of your response. This immovable mind isn't emotional suppression, it's absolute sovereignty over the space between stimulus and action. But to build this in 30 days, you need to understand exactly how this journey works, and why 30 days is the magic number that transforms knowledge into identity. 3. The 30 days that separate mental chaos from absolute control. Why 30 days? Because neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to create new neural connections, reaches a critical tipping point between 21 and 30 days of consistent practice. In the first 7 days, you're just fighting resistance. Each mental training session seems impossible, and your mind screams for you to stop. Between days 8 and 14, glimpses of control begin to appear. Brief moments where you actually manage to observe a thought without being dragged by it. From days 15 to 21, the practice begins to feel less painful and more natural. But it's from days 22 to 30 that the real magic happens, when the new neural pattern solidifies and becomes your new default setting. Musashi didn't have neuroscience studies, but he understood empirically that real transformation requires specific time under constant pressure. He spent 30 days isolated in caves multiple times throughout his life, not on relaxing retreats, but in brutal confrontation with his own mental demons. Without external distractions, without escape routes, just him and his mind. In the first days, the chaos was unbearable. Thoughts raced like wild horses, fears emerged, painful memories resurfaced. But he didn't flee. He observed everything with Mokusō, strategic silence. And each day, control increased. On day 30, he emerged as a different man, with a mind that obeyed his orders, instead of tyrannizing him. You don't need caves or total isolation, but you need absolute commitment. Skipping one day in the first 21 days almost completely resets the process. It's like building muscle. If you train 3 days and stop for 4, there's no real progress. The protocol you'll learn has 4 weeks, each focused on a specific aspect of mental mastery. Week 1 is foundation, building basic capacity to sit in silence. Week 2 is deepening, entering deeper states of quietness. Week 3 is application, taking mental control into stressful situations. Week 4 is integration, making all of this your new permanent identity. But before diving into week 1, you need to understand the specific practice that makes all of this possible. Week 1, Mokusō, the silence that kills mental noise. Mokusō isn't meditation in the modern, diluted sense of the word. It's not sitting with relaxing music, guided apps, or positive affirmations. Mokusō is direct confrontation with internal chaos, It's sitting in correct posture, spine straight as a sword, and facing the tsunami of thoughts without drowning in them. Musashi practiced this daily, sometimes for hours, just observing each thought arise and disappear like clouds passing through the sky. In his first days of training, the experience was pure torture. 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. The mind screamed to do anything except stay sitting there. But he remained immovable because he knew this battle would determine all others. In the first week, your goal is brutally simple but extremely difficult. Sit in absolute silence for 10 minutes without moving, observing your breathing. No music, no guides, nothing. Just you, your breath, and the hell of thoughts that will emerge. In the first 3 days, you'll want to quit every 30 seconds. Your mind will create 1,000 excuses. This is a waste of time. I have important things to do. It's not working. Ignore everything. These are just tactics from an untrained mind resisting training. On days 4 and 5, something begins to change. You'll have brief moments, maybe 5 seconds, where there's only breath, no thought. These moments are pure gold. The precise technique for week 1 is this. Sit in a chair with feet on the ground or in lotus position if you can. Spine perfectly erect, not leaning back. Hands on lap or knees, eyes closed or half open, looking down. Breathe naturally through your nose and count mentally. Inhale 1, exhale 2, up to 10. Then return to 1. When you notice you've lost yourself in thoughts and are no longer counting, don't blame yourself. Just gently return to 1. Do this for 10 minutes, same timer, same time every day. On days 6 and 7, you'll notice something revolutionary. There's a space between you and your thoughts. This space is where your freedom lives. But this is just foundation. In week 2, you go deeper. Week 2, Mushin. Emptying the mind to fill it with power. Mushin means empty mind or no mind, and it's the next level after Mokusō. If Mokusō is observing thoughts pass, Mushin is the state where thoughts simply stop. Not because you're suppressing them with force, but because you've created a mental space so quiet that they don't have energy to arise. Musashi described Mushin as still water in a lake at midnight, perfectly smooth, reflecting the moon with absolute clarity. In this state, there's no planning, no analysis, no fear. There's only pure action emerging from a source deeper than rational thought. It was in this state that Musashi won his most impossible duels, where his body moved with superhuman precision because the mind wasn't getting in the way. Most people never experienced Mushin once in their lives. The closest they come is in moments of flow, where they're so absorbed in an activity that the ego temporarily disappears. But Mushin is different. It's intentional emptiness you can access at any moment, not just when you're doing something you love. In week 2, you'll extend your Mokusō from 10 to 15 minutes daily, but with a different technique. Instead of counting breaths, you'll just observe the space between thoughts. Each time a thought arises, you don't follow it, don't analyze it. Simply note thought and return to emptiness. In the first days of week 2, this space lasts half a second. By day 14, it can last 5, 10, even 20 seconds of total quietness. The power of Mushin isn't just in seated practice. It's in taking this emptiness into life. When you master Mushin, you can enter high-pressure meetings, and your mind remains clear as crystal while others are panicking. You can receive devastating criticism and process the useful information without the destructive emotional narrative. You can make complex decisions without the paralysis of excessive analysis. Musashi taught that a mind full of thoughts is slow, heavy, easily deceived. An empty mind is fast, light, impossible to confuse. At the end of week 2, you'll have experienced Mushin at least a few times, even if briefly. But experiencing isn't enough. You need to sustain it. And that's where the next level comes in. The consciousness that never sleeps. Week 3, Zanshin. The warrior's permanent awareness, Zanshin is the most advanced and potentially life-saving samurai concept. It means lingering mind or permanently alert mind. It's not nervous paranoia or anxious hypervigilance. It's a relaxed but total awareness of environment and self, a presence that never completely shuts off. Musashi practiced Zanshin obsessively because he knew most warriors died not during combat, but in the seconds immediately after, when they relaxed prematurely believing the threat had passed. He maintained Zanshin until he was completely away from the battlefield, sword sheathed, but mind still active. This continuous awareness didn't leave him exhausted. It kept him alive and present in every moment. You live on autopilot 95% of the time. You drive to work and don't remember the route. You eat without tasting. You have conversations without really listening. Your consciousness is always in the past or future, never in the now. This isn't just wasting life, it's real danger. You miss opportunities because you weren't paying attention. You make stupid mistakes because you were on autopilot. You lose relationships because you were never really present. In week 3, you'll add a third layer to your training. In addition to 15 minutes of Mokusō Mushin, you'll practice Zanshin during everyday activities. Choose 3 moments of the day: eating breakfast, walking to the car, brushing teeth. In these moments, be 100% present. The Zanshin technique is radical in its simplicity. Do only one thing at a time with total attention. When eating, just eat. Feel every texture, every flavor, every chewing motion. When walking, just walk. Feel every step, the air in your lungs, the weight of your body moving. No music, no podcast, no thinking about problems, just presence. In the first days of week 3, you'll realize how impossible this seems. Your mind will try to drag you to the past and future constantly. But each time you notice and return to now, Zanshin strengthens. By day 21, something extraordinary happens. You begin living in the present for increasingly longer periods, and the quality of your life changes radically. But the real test is still to come. Week 4. Confronting the internal enemy without mercy. Week 4 is where boys separate from warriors. In the first 3 weeks, you built the foundation. Ability to sit in silence, access mental emptiness, and maintain presence. Now comes the trial by fire. Musashi had a brutal principle. Know your enemy better than he knows himself, and you've already won. But the most dangerous enemy isn't outside, it's inside. It's your unconfronted fears, your hidden shames, your weaknesses you spend your life avoiding looking at directly. In week 4, you'll sit in Mokusō for 20 minutes daily, but this time with specific intention. Bring to the surface everything you've been avoiding. And when it emerges, you won't flee, you'll face it with Fudōshin until it loses power over you. This isn't gentle therapy where you console and forgive yourself prematurely. It's relentless interrogation. Sit and ask, what am I really afraid of? Don't accept superficial answers like failure or rejection. Go deeper. Fear of being inadequate? Fear of wasting your life? Fear of dying without having done something that matters? Let these fears fully arise. Feel the anxiety in your chest, the nausea in your stomach. But instead of fleeing like you always did, just observe with the immovable mind you developed in previous weeks. Musashi did this regularly, sitting for hours, confronting each internal demon, until they revealed themselves as shadows without real substance. On the battlefield, while others were paralyzed by fear of death, he'd already faced that fear 1,000 times in silence. The technique for week 4 is progressive. Days 22-24. Identify 3 core fears, 1 per day, and sit with each for 20 minutes. Days 25-27. Do the same with 3 deep shames or regrets. Days 28-30. Confront 3 character weaknesses you know you have, but never admit. Write everything before and after each session. What you'll discover is revolutionary. When you stop fleeing these shadows and face them directly, they lose 90% of their power. The fear that's paralyzed you for years crumbles when you look at it without blinking. The shame that's been corroding you loses venom when exposed to the light of consciousness. On day 30, you'll have conquered internal territory most people never dare step into. But mental mastery isn't a one-time event. It's specific practices Musashi used every day. The 3 daily practices Musashi used to master thoughts beyond formal Mokusō periods. Musashi had 3 micro-practices he executed throughout the entire day. each taking less than a minute, but with devastating impact on mental quality. The first, the 3-breath pause. Whenever he noticed anxious thought or destructive impulse arising, he stopped what he was doing and took 3 deep, conscious breaths, observing only the air entering and leaving. Seems trivial, but this practice creates a critical neural circuit, the space between stimulus and response where free will lives. You don't react automatically, you choose consciously. Musashi did this dozens of times per day until it became automatic. When an opponent provoked him before a duel, 3 breaths. When he felt extreme hunger, 3 breaths. When fear appeared, 3 breaths. The second practice was what Musashi called the koan of thoughts. Whenever an obsessive thought or recurring worry appeared, he asked a simple question. Is this thought serving me now? Not is this thought true? Or is this thought justified? But is it serving me? If the answer was no, he consciously discarded it and returned to the present. Most people think they can't simply discard thoughts, but you can. Your thoughts aren't your master, they're tools. If a tool doesn't serve the current work, you set it aside. Musashi practiced this so consistently, he developed superhuman ability to focus only on what mattered in the moment, completely ignoring all irrelevant mental noise. The third practice, the most powerful, evening review of mental control. Every end of day before sleeping, Musashi reviewed 3 specific moments, a situation where he maintained perfect control, one where he lost control, and one where he recovered control after having lost it. He visualized each, not with moral judgment, but with cold strategic analysis. What worked, what failed, what he learned. This practice does 2 crucial things: reinforces neural patterns of success and creates a mental map to avoid future traps. You can implement all 3 practices starting today. 3 breaths whenever you feel impulse, question utility of obsessive thoughts, and evening review of 3 moments. Do this every day of the 30 days, and by the end, you'll be unrecognizable. But day 30 isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something permanent. Day 30, when the controlled mind becomes your new identity. Day 30 isn't a finish line, it's a transformation line. Something fundamentally changes when you complete 30 consecutive days of any rigorous practice. It's not just that you developed a skill, it's that you became a different person. Neuroscience confirms 30 days of consistent practice rewrites neural circuits in a way that it becomes harder to return to the old pattern than maintain the new one. Musashi understood this intuitively. After completing his 30-day isolation periods, he wasn't just a warrior with a stronger mind, he was a fundamentally different man with recalibrated identity. The version of him that entered the cave on day 1 was dead. The version that emerged on day 30 was another entity completely. On day 30, you'll notice something surprising when you sit for your practice. The initial resistance has almost completely disappeared. Your body automatically sits in correct posture. Your breathing naturally calms. Your mind enters quietness with ease. What was war in the first days is now natural ritual. More importantly, you'll notice changes outside formal practice. Situations that used to make you anxious are now faced with strange calm. Impulses that used to control you now appear, and you simply observe them pass without yielding. Difficult conversations that would make you go defensive are now navigated with Fudōshin. You're not trying to maintain control, you simply have control. The difference between effort and identity. On day 30, do a specific consolidation exercise. Sit for 30 minutes, 1 minute for each completed day, and mentally review the journey. Remember how unbearable it was in the first days, how each small victory seemed impossible. Acknowledge how much you've changed, but immediately after this recognition, let it all go. Don't cling to the achievement. Don't create ego around the mental warrior you've become. Musashi taught that the greatest danger after developing skill is the pride that comes with it. Acknowledge your progress and immediately return to student posture. Day 30 isn't conclusion, it's graduation to the next level. And this next level is eternal maintenance, not as weight, but as a natural way of life. The eternal mental warrior, maintenance beyond 30 days. Musashi didn't stop training mental control after mastering Fudōshin. He continued practicing daily until his death at 62, not because he needed to, but because it was who he was. The deadly trap that destroys most transformations is thinking that after reaching the goal, you can relax. Lose 10 pounds and stop training, gain 15 back. Build discipline for 30 days and stop 3 months later, you're back to chaos. Musashi understood a fundamental truth. Mental mastery isn't an achievement you reach and store. It's territory you maintain through constant vigilance. But here's the beautiful part. After 30 days, maintenance doesn't feel like work anymore. It feels like breathing. After day 30, your maintenance practice is simple. 15 minutes of Mokusō Mushin every day, no exceptions. Doesn't matter if you're traveling, sick or busy. 15 non-negotiable minutes. In addition, the 3 micro practices continue. 3 breaths when necessary, question useless thoughts, evening review. But here's the upgrade. Once a month you do a 24-hour reset. Choose a day, completely disconnect from technology. Spend the day in maximum possible silence. And do 3 one-hour deep practice sessions. Musashi did this regularly, withdrawing to the mountains for an entire day just to recalibrate. This monthly reset ensures you never deviate too far from the path. The final goal isn't to have a perfectly calm mind 100% of the time. That's illusion. The goal is to have the ability to return to calm any time you choose. Storms will come, chaotic thoughts will arise, difficult emotions will appear, but now you have the tool to process all of this without being destroyed. Musashi faced extreme stress situations regularly, but he always had an internal safe harbor where he could return. You built that harbor in the last 30 days. Now it's just a matter of visiting it daily for 15 minutes to keep it clean and functional. Do this for the next months, years, decades, and you'll live as Musashi lived, unshakable before external chaos because you conquered internal territory. But before closing, you need to understand what to do exactly tomorrow morning. You just received the exact 30-day protocol that Miyamoto Musashi used to transform chaotic mind into unshakable fortress. These aren't abstract philosophical concepts. They're concrete practices with specific timeline. Week 1, building Mokusō. Week 2, accessing Mushin. Week 3, developing Zanshin. Week 4, confronting internal demons. Plus the 3 daily micro-practices that ensure control maintains outside the meditation cushion. Now the only question that matters, will you start tomorrow or will you add this to the infinite list of things you promised to do but never did? Musashi didn't win 60 duels because he had supernatural talent. He won because he did the internal work his opponents avoided. 30 days. Just 30 days separate you from absolute mental control. Leave your public commitment in the comments now. I'm starting the 30 days of mental mastery tomorrow. Write that. When you declare publicly, the probability of following through multiplies by 5. And if you've already completed 30-day challenges before, tell us in the comments what it was and what changed in your life. This community is of modern warriors applying samurai principles. Use the collective energy to sustain your individual journey. Musashi trained alone in the mountains, but you have the advantage of an entire tribe walking the same path. Declare your day 1 now. If this video showed you that mental control isn't a mystical gift, but a trainable skill, then subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Every video here is a tool for internal war, timeless samurai principles, translated for modern battles. Don't let this wisdom escape, because your mind will try to convince you tomorrow that you don't need this. It wants to maintain control. Take control from it. Join the digital dojo and walk the mental warrior's way. See you on day 30.